Hello, people. Thank you for jumping back onto the Bucks Paranormal Podcast. This is filmed a week prior to when it will be released. We're here today with Cameron from Ghost Revelations. So, for listeners who may not know who you are, Cameron, can you just give us a bit of a background story, really? And, who you are, where you're from, what got you into the paranormal?
Yeah, well, I'm your friendly neighborhood Canadian ghost hunter. I'm based out of Peterborough in Ontario, Canada, and so most of my research has been done in the region of Ontario. It's spanned over 4 decades. I've done over 1,000 investigations and clearings now, and all of them are on a volunteer basis because, as you may realize, it's important to get into these haunted locations to gather evidence. So,
Yeah,
if you put a price tag on anything, it shuts the door on quite a few interesting places.
definitely.
So I don't do my work on a volunteer basis because of saintly ambitions. There's a method to my madness, and I've had a lot of successes over the years collecting photographic evidence. So I've got a very large collection of photographs of ghosts, spirits, shadow beings, and orbs, but the paranormal orbs, not dust or bugs. And also, I've been very lucky. I photographed a sabe. We call them sabes over here, might be better known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Right.
And what else? I've got one that I was able to determine is a type of a dog man. So I've got a photograph of a dog man peering around a corner at me. And then through a fluke up in a local cemetery, I was very fortunate to get a photograph of something that other people have drawn illustrations of. There is what's called a Dover demon, because that was where it was first really witnessed and documented back in 1977 in Dover, Massachusetts. But up here in Ontario, I got a photograph in a graveyard of something that looks identical to the Dover demon legend. So I've been very fortunate, and my next endeavors that I'm going out on, I'm coming to the UK actually on Monday, the 22nd of June. I'm
Okay.
coming for 3 weeks, and I'm going to be skulking around all the cemeteries and going to, Mary's Close and all the catacombs. But my big thing, my big draw is going to Loch Ness, and I'm going to be wading into the water and just photographing my little mind off until I hopefully get some sort of image, hopefully of the Loch Ness monster. I have no guarantees, but that's just where I've set the bar for myself now, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that next venture.
They should enjoy. There's a lot of history over here, that's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one place I've never been myself. But, yeah, a couple of hours drive away. I've never been to Scotland. Yeah, I've been to America twice. Yeah, work that one
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
But no, is it just like Scotland you're going to, or are you coming to England, Wales, Ireland?
Whoops. Just heading 3 weeks is enough to get Scotland done. We debated about coming to England. I really want to go to York, and I also want to go to
Yeah.
Stonehenge, Glastonbury. Um, so that's on the radar, but I have a feeling it's going to be more next year. That'll be next year's expedition.
Yeah.
And
There's just too much to do, isn't
so,
there? I mean, everything's money as well, isn't it? Wherever you go,
yep.
it's all about the
Yeah.
costings.
Well,
But yeah, I mean,
all the early books you pick up on the paranormal, most of them are like from Cornwall, Wales, ghosts of the UK, all the hauntings that involve castles because of all the tragedies and punishments that were inflicted upon people. There's a lot of emotional energies trapped in these regions. Whereas in Canada, we're more the new kid on the block. We've only got a few hundred years of history. Some of it tragic. We had a few misfortunes that we inflicted upon the Irish, basically. And so there's some tragedies over here as well. They're not as prominent, but they are just under the surface of what you can see with the naked eye. And
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to just swimming in amongst the paranormal in the UK. It's like It's
Should be
amazing.
good for you. I mean, every 15-minute drive, there's a castle. Yeah, I mean, wherever you
Yeah,
go, there's something around the corner. So, just
yeah.
touching upon, you said you've been doing it for over 4 decades now. So, over the 40 years of being in the field, what's your most compelling piece of evidence, or the best thing that you've seen that you might say has blown your mind or unexplainable? Like your favorite piece of evidence you've
Yeah.
caught through.
Um, that's a great question. I prefer to look at, something that's more interesting to me rather than being asked, what scared you the most? I
Yeah.
think, what scares me the most is not getting any evidence. What I go out for and I expect to get now is evidence. And I think for me, it's exciting to be called into a haunting where it's either affecting a family or a business, and I can leave that haunting and collect photographic evidence of a spirit or a being of some sort, and that I can show that evidence back to the homeowner, the haunted, and they can recognize the spirit and identify it. I had a case, a fascinating one I had was I was called out of all places to investigate was a haunted attraction. And this is one of those, you guys probably have them in the UK at Halloween. They pop up. It's like
Like
a
a
haunted
scare
barn.
maze sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have scare
Where,
mazes.
there's somebody ready to jump out and scare you at every turn.
Yeah.
So, I got called out to one place we have in our region. I'll call it the haunted farm. And they were having this situation where staff was claiming that while they were in hiding behind their black curtain ready to scare people, something would touch them, like tap them on the shoulder, an unseen presence, and almost as if it was having a little scare of them. And then customers would come to them after the event, and they would approach the owners of the farm, and they would say, this is amazing. How did you do that one attraction? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like they always describe this one where a woman walked up to them and what passed right through them. And they're like, we don't have anything like that. We have teenagers wearing Halloween masks. We don't have any expensive illusions. And so they thought to give me a call. I had a television show at the time, and I guess I got a call to come out and help them at their farm. And so I entered this haunted barn. It's a large barn, and it was all tricked out with Mike Myers and Jason. So it's kind of surreal. You're bringing in all your equipment and you're setting up your security cameras, and right next to you is Mike Myers standing there with a knife ready
Yeah.
to stab you. Um, that was kind of cool, and also like the bathtub with limbs sticking out of it and blood painted on the side. But anyways, you get set up, and I tend to work with a digital camera primarily. That's my tool of choice in collecting evidence. And so I would roam this haunted barn and I would take photographs of every square inch. And and thankfully on this one, when I'm back at my computer looking at my photographs, clearly I had a spirit that was passing through a long black corridor. It was one of these optical illusion corridors that gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right.
This spirit was passing through it, and it showed up. It was a shimmering spirit. It was a female, and she appears to be not wearing any clothing, and her hair is tied back in a bun. And so I was like, wow, I got a great hit here. I got some other spirits there as well. But this was the one that really stood out. And so when I did my recap with the owners of the attraction, brought my laptop over, we're sitting there, and they had some other people waiting in another room. They said they wondered if they could join us when they saw the photograph, and I said sure. So I showed them the picture, and this group of people huddled around the laptop were all able to identify the woman on screen. And it turns out this female that's still roaming the halls of the haunted barn, she used to work there for 18 years. She was
Right.
easily recognized. She was either related to some of the kids that worked there, or she was good friends with them. She was their ticket taker. And so that was wonderful identification of a spirit at a haunting. So things like that get me excited, and an spirit that you can't identify. It's like an ambiguous spirit. And it could be simply you're photographing maybe past life energy, or maybe an ancestral energy connected to the person at the haunting. Sometimes you can identify them, but most times you're not going to identify the spirit. So I get excited when I get that wonderful evidence that you can
Can
validate with
identify.
witnesses.
Yeah. So did you say you identified that woman in particular? Did she lose her life there, or was she just linked to, like,
No, she just
residual?
died, and to be honest, I forget what she passed from. I'm going to assume it was most likely like cancer or stroke. Usually, is they're the two common
Yeah.
traits that we pass from, and I'm sure they told me and I wrote it down, but I can't remember that now. And I was asked to come back to this farm for another investigation. You think, it's great, we got this evidence, case closed, but it wasn't about this woman roaming the barn. They had another scenario. This was the following season they opened up, and they'd been opened up for a few weekends now, and the owners didn't know what to do with this one. They also had not only their haunted barn attraction, but they had the haunted hayride where you would get on a wagon and a tractor would pull you through a forest,
Yeah.
and there would be scenarios. Generators would be set up and they'd run lights out to a little haunted well where the woman from the Ring movie would come out and crawl up to you. um so there was a lot of interesting scenes on this trail, and I was invited to come out because the teenagers that were working this attraction were actually terrified. They had seen dark, shadowy figures running amongst the trees that weren't part of their group, and they were hovering around the generators. They had these large yellow generators running the equipment, and they said they would see these beings running around by the generators, cloaked beings like the Grim Reaper, basically. And then next thing you know, the generators would shut off, and then there's everybody standing in the dark. What do we do? And then they've got a wagon load of people about ready to come in. So it was becoming frustrating for them. It was happening more than once. And so there I was one night. I was asked to join them, came out with my cameras, and I joined this group of young people behind the scenes. And I would be standing behind, some cabin where a werewolf was waiting to jump out at people. And I was just asked to stay out of the way of the wagon, and I could take as many pictures as I want as long as I wasn't seen. So my goal was to, yeah, I want to photograph every square inch of this trail, but I primarily focused on those areas where the generators were, where witness reports of shadowy beings shutting off the generators. So I was around those areas most of the night, and I took a lot of pictures. And I also took a lot of pictures of the costumes, like the mannequins that were dressed up as scary things, so I could tell what was real and what was maybe a
Yeah.
ghost.
That was.
And so long story short, back at the computer later, I pull up my photos, and what do I get? But next to one of their costume mannequins, there was a being. It's a shadow being with red eyes, and it was in a cloak, and it had sort of like a grayish, I call them scary creatures with skeletal features. They have those sort of like the gray bony look to them. And it was passing behind one of these costume figures, and it was clearly not one of the regulars. And it didn't shut off the generator that night, but that was wonderful to collect evidence of a shadowy being running around. And I was able to deduce from this, shadow beings and a lot of spirits that like to enter our dimension, they tend to use sound more than visual cues. So they're attracted to sound or emotions. And so they can focus their energies and get like 1 foot into our dimension by using standing sound waves, like the hum of a television, the hum of a computer, the hum of your fuse box in your house. And that's where they will tend to manifest, and that's their that's their sort of like their north compass that they focus on when they're in a haunting. So this
Mhm.
generator was really pissing them off because if you're familiar with a generator noise, they're really
It's loud.
loud and
Yeah.
it's all over the place, the vibration. So they wanted those generators turned off. So that's what they did. And that was able, so they were able to focus on all that, the screaming people coming in, that they were attracted to that sort of emotional energy of terrifying young women cowering in a wagon, look for a
Yeah.
scare. And they could find them a lot easier without that disturbing noise. And so I was really fortunate to get that photo, even though I didn't see them with my own eyes. I let my camera do most of the work for me. So,
Yeah.
so that
That's
was
what you need
another
to do.
one, and like it was like lightning in the bottle twice at this haunted attraction. And so I can just recommend for other people if they're looking to set up an event or do some serious research. These haunted barns, they attract shadow beings, and I think they also create thought forms. Like they create their own mascot that they will use like in their promotional material, so they don't have any copyright issues.
I mean,
So they
that
might
that's
they might create a skeletal looking being wearing a fedora or something.
yeah.
And what happens is a lot of times those creatures that are just they start off as an illustration or a thought, they tend to take on a life of their own and they become a being larger than life that will frequent these haunted attractions, and you'll be able to photograph them either in an image or you might just get them when they're like a WinZip file, like an orb. You'll get a clear image of their face, perhaps.
Mhm. I
So
mean, that's what I was going
they're
to ask you
fascinating place.
as well. You hear
Sorry.
about it all over the world, and I mean, especially in England as well. These haunted, well, I say haunted, these attractions, like you said about the Scarefest, scare mazes, the haunted barns, ghost trains on fairgrounds. A lot of the stories, they seem to have actually like spirits linked to them anyway, don't they? Like when
Yeah.
you've got Ghost Adventures in America, you've got Most Haunted over here, and a lot of the episodes over here were in fairgrounds on ghost trains where spirits have been
Yes.
caught. Would you say like you just mentioned, you kind of mentioned it really there, but the setup of it and the energy they're creating like brings these spirits forward
Oh,
as
definitely.
such.
Well, like when you think about it, over here we have something called Center Island, Centerville, and they have a haunted fun house. You can get in one of those little buckets and you drive through.
Okay.
And when you think of all the beings you see that are represented with illustrations, they're actually dark archetypes that have been around as long as we've had a belief in ghosts or spirits. It's the dark archetype of the hooded grim reaper or the
Hmm.
mysterious man in the black hat, and don't forget the witch, the hag. So those are always the ones skulking around, and um, there's a certain amount of energy, and from a universal standpoint, these beings are around in say the our universal consciousness. It's bigger than you and me. It's everywhere, and it makes up our mythologies, our histories, and new histories as well. They're a part of our life, and when you think of it, you're going into those haunted attractions that are using those illustrations. It gets your mind going, and you're seeing things that have been around with us for millennia,
Hmm.
and sometimes it attracts that like energy to these spots. You may not see the Grim Reaper, but that energy is there, and it may reach out and put its bony hand on you, and you'll get a start.
I mean, the same, probably the same as haunted dolls and haunted objects. They're nothing until that energy spots it and sticks to it. It's
Oh
created
yeah,
from the energy itself, isn't it?
yeah,
Like a doll's never haunted straight away. It's the energy and the entity that has connected to it,
yeah.
which
I had one
some
story
locations.
about a haunted doll. One investigation I did. It was a young girl. She had the night visitors showing up in her room. I mean, she was only like 6 or 7, I guess, and it was pretty easy case to resolve. Um, she would see this dark, shadowy figure standing next to her bed at night. And so just asking, I've learned just to ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
that like you just do that. And so it turns out, this girl had recently received a gift just months before these night visits happened. She received a gift of a stuffed animal, and it was from a relative that wasn't all there mentally, like she had emotional issues. She was one of these people that had a lot of anger. And the family was kind of like, they didn't know what to do when she was giving this young girl this stuffed dog toy. And they weren't too, they had a weird vibe about it even then. So when I brought it up, they were very quick to pinpoint, well, yes, we do. She did receive this stuffed animal. And yes, the person that gave it to her wasn't the type of person that always had the best of intentions. So the call was made. The young girl really didn't have any attraction to this stuffed toy. So we were able just to bag it, throw it in the garbage, and that settled the haunting rather quickly. So energies can be attached to different things. Um, it's just the way it is. We leave energy around us everywhere we go, actually. And
Yeah.
I'll just share with you what I've discovered about ghosts. Um, when you think about ghosts, if you're living in a home that's haunted, let's say, well, that ghost may have lived in that home that you're now living in, but it lived there 5, 10 years previously. Well, that ghost isn't interacting with your energy; it's interacting with energy imprints that it's known and are familiar with from years ago. And so it's almost akin to when you lately you see things like liminal spaces pop up. People say, oh, there's a lot of liminal spaces out there. Well, I think of these energy imprints we leave behind as liminal spaces, and that's where our ghosts, when they haven't moved on for whatever their reason is, they're interacting in those liminal spaces of an energy imprint. And so it explains when, say for example, you hear the ghost, sounds like they're cooking dinner in the kitchen. You go down, there's nothing going on. There's no pots in use. There's nothing out that would make those noises you're hearing. But that's your ghost cooking, and it's an energy imprint or liminal space.
Yeah.
And if people have the presence to have a camera with them when they're hearing those noises, odds are you'll get a photograph of it.
No, definitely. I always say, look, I've always got an EVP with me wherever I go, just a recorder, because you never what you see with your eyes is going to be totally different to when you look back on the evidence. Um,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Also, with anyone that's interested in just getting started in the paranormal world, eyes and ears, that's all you need, and a camera.
yeah.
You'll be
Yeah, it's
surprised what
very.
you catch.
Now, can I ask you, like, I've been researching the SLS cameras, those ones that show you the stick figures.
Yeah.
Have you done any work with those?
Yes, in the past. Well, I mean, we paid quite expensive for our old one a few years back. Um, but you can download them free online on your phone. It's kind of the same. It works
Okay.
the same, really. It's just they used to build them out of the old Xbox Connects, didn't they?
Yeah.
If you remember. How can I put it? The stuff
I,
I've
I just
seen
feel like,
online of them, I'd say a lot of it's rubbish.
mhm,
But I've caught things which we can't explain. We used to do live investigations in like abandoned places over here, and once we went into an old burnt down theatre, it still had the
yeah,
big stage, and we got the SLS out, just moving around, and the team just said, if there's anyone here with us, can you make your way to the stage and perform for us? Lo and behold, this stick figure walked from one side to the centre of the stage, and it was like, arms around, up and down, legs kicking, backwards and forwards. We scanned the rest of the
yeah,
room, nothing else was there. There was nothing on the stage that, like a chair or anything it was nothing it could have picked up, which could
yeah,
have made that illusion. And the most compelling thing was at the end. Uh, I've not got the footage of it no more because it was live on Facebook and we lost the footage on there. But I said, thank you. we applaud you. All the team started clapping. And it started taking bows, like bowing down,
Whoa.
left and right, bowing down, and that was it. It just disappeared then. But that was amazing. And the only other one which I'd say was really really good. We called it the Sex Hotel as a title of the video because it was like a what do they call them? Um, like a gentleman's club, basically, with separate
Yeah.
rooms over it. And it was another burnt down, abandoned place. Still had like the little rooms laying around, and there's a sauna room. Scanning round and went into this sauna, and this thing was a stick figure, but just sat down, just like I am now. And I was just joking around. I was like, "Yeah, relax for us. It's fine. We'll carry on." He got on its side, legs up, and just started lying down. So I think a lot of it with the SLS, it, people take the pictures and they're like, "Oh yeah, we caught a figure, we got the ghost," and they just don't want to admit that there's a chair behind them. It's picking up the chair legs, it's picking up table legs, and it can pick up a lot. You've really got to rule it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking with those, they're best if you set them up on a tripod and just, no movement.
Yeah,
You know what you're shooting. And like you said, you called in a spirit and it walked in. So that's probably the best way to do that, I would think. I haven't tried them yet. I've debated getting one. They looked really
Mhm.
cool when I first saw one in action. But again, it's got a heavy price tag on it.
Yeah. I mean, over here a few years back, there was about say anywhere between £100 to £200, and it was hit and miss whether it would work. So you're buying them online. Someone was just building them from the old parts of their Xbox and stuff. You can make your own. You could YouTube it and
Hmm.
make your own really for cheap
Yeah,
enough.
maybe.
But so you're considering getting one, are you?
I was thinking of it. I figure like I put myself out there as the so-called expert now. I feel like I should experiment with that. It is the new thing right now, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think people when they do see it, people have questions, does it work? And I think it would be good to, maybe I should bite the bullet and experiment with it so that I could give an honest opinion on, if I think it does work or not. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you do that and you do buy a decent bit of kit and you set it up on a tripod, like you said, and leave it still, download the free app on your phone as well. 'Cause you can get there's loads of free apps for the SLS and put that next to
Okay.
it and just experiment, see if it does pick up the same.
Yeah.
Because people say they're exactly the same, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to discuss it 'cause I've got that many mixed opinions on it.
Yeah.
Personally, I've caught great evidence from it, but everything else I've seen online, I've called bullshit. Basically,
Yeah, me
it just
too.
it looks
Whoops. Sorry.
looks rubbish.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about your book a little bit, but just touching back on the last 10 minutes, you were talking about the haunted attractions. Did you mention that you had a TV show or something at the time?
Yeah, I had 3 seasons I did on a local channel here in Ontario called Hauntline with Cameron Bagg, and we did some community investigations. We'd shoot some footage in the community, but the highlight of the show was we sat down in the studio with a guest, and I would interview somebody I wanted to interview. This is like pre-podcasts, really,
Yeah,
and I greatly enjoyed doing it. I had a bucket list of guests that I wanted to have on my show, and I think by episode 4, I got my. We have a local psychic. He's world famous. He's quite well known. Gentleman named John Pathaya. And when I started my show, I thought I'd really like to interview him, and so I was fortunate enough to get him on my show. And also another guy who was influential to me was a writer named Terry Boyle. He wrote the Haunted Ontario books, which locally it gave me a lot of information and places to seek out, going back 40 years when I started. So I did meet him and we became buddies. And so yeah, my show was fun to do. And I gave up after 3 seasons because it was the most popular show that network had, because they would also open it up to all of Ontario. And so we get call-ins from all over the place. And It was just interesting. But then the studio asked me if I would come in and start shooting a half-hour version, but do 16 episodes in a weekend. And I couldn't fathom, like, it was hard enough weekly bringing in a compelling guest every week. I
Yeah.
could not think, how am I going to get 16 episodes done in a weekend? So I just thought, you know what? I got other things I can do also. So I just decided it's my turn to just say, no, I think I'm going to go into other areas. So that's what I did.
I mean, I already know from before this even goes out, people will be messaging in saying, "Can they see that show? Can they watch it? Is it still available anywhere for people to watch?"
I really don't know. I think some of my guests recorded the show and they've posted some snippets online.
Okay.
Um, And myself, I recorded my own copies, but is it out there in the world? I don't know. And it's funny, that was what the studio wanted to do. They wanted to shoot these episodes so they could put them on demand. And at the time, I was working a full-time job, and I just, full-time job producing a TV show, and also I was a single parent, and I was also doing clearings and investigations. So it was a crazy period. It was 3 years of my life that I learned a lot, just from um, just booking guests and meeting people. I met so many people, and also putting yourself out there. I just ended up, people needed help with clearings, and that was where I really got good with learning how to do energy clearings, because people needed help. And a lot of ghost
Yeah.
hunters, I find, don't like to get into the clearing of a haunted house. And I understand that, because you want
Mm.
the evidence. And believe me, I don't clear a home until I get the evidence first. But over the years, I've understood there's people that when they're calling into their homes, they want help. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a little bit of curiosity. It's like, well, is it really haunted or not? What am I experiencing here? And I'm very fortunate. I can get the evidence and then determine, yeah, there's a lot of stuff around here. We need to clear this house.
Yeah.
And I tend to clear homes that the haunting is affecting people, especially children, where you have children, they're coming awake in the middle of the night, or they're going to their mom and dad, there's a monster in their room, or there's
Obviously,
something in
children
my
are
bed.
more open to it as
Mm,
well, aren't they? Children are more
yeah,
open to it as well, so they will pick things up.
definitely.
I mean, we used to do a lot of private home investigations over here as our team, and like you just mentioned there, we didn't really do the cleansing side of it. They wanted evidence, we caught it, and if needs be, we always got someone coming after us. So whether it be a medium, someone we like, the trusted person that could
Yeah.
set spirits free, basically cleanse the house. But yeah, I think that's definitely an important thing to do. But yeah, so we've already figured out now you're a man of many talents, TV star, author, investigator. That's a book behind you that you've recently wrote. Ghost
Yeah.
Revelations, is it?
Yeah, I'm proud of this. This has been 40 years in the making, and I've sat
Yeah.
down to write different versions of this book over the years. I really wanted to share with people an understanding of shadow beings and shadow projections, shadow hauntings. They're different than what most people are expecting. So I started writing that book, and then I realized, well, I want to do a book on clearings. And I also wanted to do a book on my key cases where, I learned the most about my paranormal encounters in these cases. One of them was the haunted barn. And so Ghost Revelations, the book, is a culmination of three books in one. And I'm very pleased with it. So if somebody needs to know how to clear a haunting, I've got a very in-depth chapter on how to clear a haunted home, what works, my techniques. I also had to get very good at learning how to clear a haunting, because my house was haunted for a while. I write about that in the book. I had to get a Grim Reaper out of my house that I saw with my own eyes. And believe me, if you want to think about clearing your house, seeing a Grim Reaper, and this was the other thing, this Grim Reaper I saw, it wasn't in scary black. It came out of my son's closet. It was associated with my son's energy. And this thing its cowl touched the tip of the ceiling, and it was a brilliant blue color. It was like the most royal blue you could ever see. It was a color of blue I'd never seen before. It was brilliant. And by the time I was up and off the couch saying, "What the hell are you doing here?" This thing disappeared. But I know from experience, it doesn't mean that they're gone if you can't see them.
No.
So I started rolling up my sleeves, and this was my son's 30 now, and this happened when he was about 12 years old. So it tells you how long ago it was. And so I researched every clearing technique I could find, every visualization, every practical method using sea salt, sound, incense, candles. So I've come up with the best clearing technique I could come up with. And really what it comes down to is you're changing the vibration of a home. So you're breaking up, you're getting rid of the stagnant or energies you don't want in the house, and you're pushing them out of the way, and then you're just bringing in a new vibration. And I use an invocation that I get the house owners to use, and you put it actually on. It's a laying on of the hands onto the very foundation of the walls, the floors. If you have a bed that's shaking, you say the invocation over the bed, and you change that energy so that if there's anything negative that doesn't resonate with good energy, it's not going to be wanting to be around that invocation
No.
because it
So you say
plays on.
the energy itself will still be there. It's just positive rather than negative.
No, it goes. We get rid of the energy. Um, and I don't call it a spirit banishment or an exorcism. I think of it as changing, and also you change the person's energy. Um, but you're changing the entire energy of the house, and even up in the attic. Like if a home has an attic space, I usually tend to be the one that goes up there and clears that space. Or if there's a crawl space under the building, I go in there and I do my thing. Um, and it's quite a process, but it works. I've had 100% success rate. And what's exciting about it is it removes the negative energy, but yet um, spirits that are good. If you have an aunt or uncle that comes by in spirit, they're still going to come in because they're not going to mind that it's a place of love and light. They're going to be feeling quite welcome there and enjoy the space, that it doesn't have those riffraff spirits around. And so that's something I was really proud. So I put that into the book because I think that's crucial for people. So I think it'll appeal to ghost hunters
Excuse me.
that maybe want to get into clearings. And it's certainly going to help people that maybe they live somewhere remotely. They don't have access to Buck or Cameron. They can do it themselves. They can order it on Amazon, and next thing you know, they're clearing their house. So it's like 3 books in one. It's got my key cases, how to clear a haunting, and a big chapter on shadow beings and all the dark archetypes that you can encounter in your paranormal researches. So I'm pleased with it. I really enjoyed writing it too.
No, definitely. So you say you can get it on Amazon? Because I think I will be looking into that, to be honest,
Yeah,
later on.
it's Amazon. Kindle is much cheaper, and the book I also
Excuse me.
include a lot of my favorite photographs. So it's one of those rare books where I'm just not showing you some pictures of what a haunted building looks like from the outside. I share many of the ghosts that I've encountered in it, including the Dover Demon, Sabe, the Dog Man, spirits, shadow beings. It's quite fascinating, and they're all the real deal. All I do with my photos when I share them is I tend, because I'm shooting at night and I'm always working with a flash camera, but I like to peek into the shadows a bit more.
Yeah.
So I all I do is I'll maybe brighten the image and I'll enlarge it so you can see the spirit that's peeking around the tree or coming up out of the ground, or up in a window. And so it's fascinating. I'm really proud of it with that. It's not only Do I talk the talk? I show the show and tell. I show
the
my
evidence.
spirits
Yeah,
as well.
no,
So
brilliant. Look forward to reading it. So obviously you've done thousands of investigations over the years. You've said what what like what percentage would you say of you found as like a normal radical explanation? Like, would you say mostly 50% of the investigation you've done are actually hauntings, or would you say it's a very, very much lower percentage? Because a lot of people claim everywhere they go is haunted, But obviously, you're an
yeah,
expert in the field, so
yeah. Well, I find it's maybe 50-50 now. I find I can go in and diagnose a haunting pretty quickly. Whereas just recently I was called out to a home that thought it was haunted, and there were spirits in the home, but it was more, there was the poltergeist type energy was there. I'm just going to keep talking here. Um, there was a poltergeist energy there, and a lot of poltergeist energy is really if there's, say, a young person in the household and a dominant person in the household, and
yeah,
that younger person is maybe feeling they're being dominated by someone. And so they're not allowed to speak their mind, perhaps. They're not allowed to share their thoughts openly and honestly. So that energy, they're biting back, they're repressing it. But as people go through puberty, or they're just a little bit younger people, and primarily like even kids to their late teens, that energy often acts out psychically. And that energy, if they're upset with something or someone in the household, that's the energy that will blow light bulbs. It'll cause lights to come on and off. It'll cause radios to come on and off. It'll affect a lot of you'll have a lot of electrical disturbances in your house, perhaps. It can even just be upset, and it can upend furniture. It's that strong. And so those are kind of hauntings that they're hauntings to a point. It's something supernatural going on, paranormal, that mainstream science just isn't up on. But it's not so much a ghost doing it, it's your psychic energy doing it. And so sometimes I have to ask hard questions of the family, like, are you guys getting along here? Like when I see, say, it's a mother and daughter, that's a very common one, or a
mhm,
dominant father figure sometimes. And that can be resolved pretty quickly. And it seems like maybe, it may be a haunting where the people have just moved into the home. And these type of hauntings, actually, I call them hauntings, but it's that psychic energy, really.
yeah.
It can happen, especially when um, people go through a divorce and you have a
So you
child in the
you're
family.
feeding the negative energy, aren't you? You're feeding
Yeah,
it by
it
the
could. You
arguments and all the bad
Yeah, nobody loves me. And, sometimes you can clear a haunting because somebody just needs a hug, really, or to be reassured that they're loved, or sit down, have a talk with them. What's bothering them here? They didn't like the move. They don't want to live in this house. And by just being open and honest, and that's the thing with ghosts. You can't keep any secrets from the paranormal, like shadow beings. They know what you're thinking.
Yeah,
Ghosts sometimes know what you're thinking, or at least they can perceive what you're doing. And I find with dealing with the paranormal, you have to be as open and honest with everything. There's no secrets.
no, definitely. I mean, firstly, apologies for keep coughing. I feel like I've got an air or something in my throat and it's doing my head in.
Be careful. There's something going around.
Yeah, always is.
Yeah.
So, paranormal side, investigators, anyone that's like on the internet basically faces a lot of skepticism. Can't even say the word from skeptics anyway, right? So, what's the
Yeah.
strongest challenge you've had thrown at you that you faced, and like how did you respond? You must have had quite a lot over the years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what? Now I love it. I
Yeah,
look at, every skeptic or person, it's usually some old guy that looks like Santa Claus sitting at his computer typing away like, oh, what a fraud, what a scam.
yeah,
And this guy's had no encounters, no experiences. he's not like he's going to finish making those comments to me. Then he's going over bugging some little girl. Oh, those Girl Guide cookies are horrible. You should give up the business. So, but I
Yes.
look at it when I get these hits from these people now. That tells me my seminar is going to sell out because for every negative comment I get 10 people that are coming to my talks. So I welcome the criticism. It's like it's a marker for me. I'm like, oh, I must be doing something right because I'm getting attention.
Yeah.
And and actually, when I do live events, I take my book basically on the road, and I've been doing live seminars where I share my photos in a PowerPoint presentation, and so people can see these ghosts on a large screen, larger than life. It's quite cool. And every now and then I get an oddball show up, like I had one guy that was like he was probably a magician. He was like an amateur version of James Randi. He'd come in and he'd be like, "Ooh, where are all the ghosts?" And he'd be all like, looking around like, "Oh, where are they? I thought there would be ghosts here."
Yeah.
And you just kind of like you just look at them and just let them hang themselves, to be honest. And because I know like out of the whether it's 20 people or 200 people that I have in my audience, they want to learn, they want to know more. And so the numbers far outweigh the benefits, far outweigh those materialistic people sitting there, um just trying to take you down. Like somebody told me something a long time ago, is that people like to throw stones at shiny objects. So I kind of welcome the criticism, and I do touch
Mhm.
on it in my book in a couple of spots. um they don't get to me now. It used to, even up to months ago perhaps, but I think it just comes with it, and you have to really develop a thick skin
It
and just say,
used to bother
I'm
me.
doing my thing. How
Yeah,
about you? You get bugged?
it used to bother me when, say, we used to go. We were doing live streams on Facebook of investigations for years, 2, 3 times a week, and at the start, it really got to me. And I'll be lashing back on camera, and like, eventually I stopped it, and I just started winding them up, having a bit of a play of them. So if they said I was doing something, the main thing is they say, "Oh, fake, it's all rubbish," shouldn't they? And then I'll purposely show something, like I'll show the camera. I'll be like to my friend, "Oh, stand behind that doorway and just open the door, close it, keep banging it," and I'll just show them, like, "Look, it's a ghost, it's a ghost," and that really wound them up. And I think responding to them like that, eventually they just disappear anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't like blocking people or nothing like that, purely because each comment adds to your algorithm anyway. So they're
Hmm.
helping the page grow. But yeah, it did really used to get to me quite a lot. Now I'll just laugh it off, really.
Yeah.
But
It's something I'll share with you that I've been thinking about. Like part of my Scottish journey is I'm doing some research on the Pictish witches, the Picts from northern Scotland,
yeah, I've heard.
and witchcraft. And I really realized, like, a lot of these people, they were like they were your village medicine people. They would, if you were sick, you went to the Pictish witch for help. And unfortunately, if you didn't help the person, they might say, "Oh, you're an evil witch." But it's always fascinated me that there are people that tried to understand the natural world around us, and some of our perhaps greatest thinkers back a few millennia ago, um, were being burned and drowned as witches.
Yeah,
And if they had have been more welcomed, and if people tried to learn from them and their ways, we might be so much more advanced as a civilization. And I have great respect for medical science, but I think there is a lot to be learned from the natural world still. That's where they get all their information from,
yeah,
anyways. We all do. But it's our brutality as a species has really been what has limited us in our development of understanding. And even today, with regards to the paranormal, we get there's a large large section of Christians, maybe more down south here in North America, that really, say what we're doing is the devil's work, or we shouldn't trust spirits. And it's true to some degree, some spirits you shouldn't trust, but it's kind of like having a stranger danger sense, like recognize your spirits. And that's what we're out here doing at the forefront. We're trying to help people recognize the spirits, the good ones and the not so good ones.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of, like, I think of a lot of the shadow beings as your paranormal predators, and they're probably the closest things to what the Christians see as demons, but don't demonize the whole paranormal industry. We're doing research, we're learning things, and one day all these things we're discovering will become commonplace. It'll be an app on your phone, to be honest, and you'll be able to have AI pick out all the spirits that are around you and at a haunting. They'll pop them up. They'll be able to show them in ultraviolet or full spectrum or whatever.
Crazy, isn't it? 'Cause you'll have like the kids of the future saying, "I can't believe they used to do that back in the day. They used to take the phones
Yeah.
round and record. What idiots!"
Yeah.
So things will
Yeah, we're
progress.
probably all going to be hardwired with chips in our heads one day.
Looks like it's going that way. I mean, your
Yeah.
website itself discusses that you do a lot of digital spirit photography. Can you explain to people what exactly is that? That is
Yeah.
digital
Oh,
spirit
easily.
photography.
Well, first I got a little prop here. Um, I work with just digital point and shoot cameras, nothing dramatically expensive. I have high-end cameras, but when I go ghost hunting, I can be clumsy and drop them. So I just use like a Sony or a Casio point and shoot. And I love these little point and shoot cameras because even your computers you use now, they film light spectrums that we just don't see with our regular vision.
Yeah.
But around us, there's all these other light sources. Like there's your infrared light there. You can't see it looking at it, but your camera does. And thank God for NASA, they put these little microprocessors into these point and shoot cameras that convert anything that is unseen by the eye into an image you can see. So when it picks up a fast moving object in the infrared spectrum, it's going to convert it to something you can see on your screen or on your computer later. That's the secret of getting ghosts, to be
I
honest.
mean, that's a very good
And
example with the remote itself because, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there.
no,
I think
exactly.
that's a very good example there.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and where I've taken that next, as I said before, I do live events. And so I photographed at my events. It was just on a whim. I started doing it years ago, doing, spirit photography. And I was hoping just to get orbs coming into the photos or around people where I could blow them up and I could point out this is an old man, this is a dog, this is a cat. Hey, we got this around you. They mean nothing to me, but maybe to the person it does. And so I was doing that one day while I was looking through my photos, there was an orb next to somebody's head up around by their temple area. So I blow up the image to see what I can see in the orb. So yeah, there was an image, but then what got my attention was in the person's hair, right next to their temple, there were like three spirit faces there. And it was like they're like real small. You have to blow them up on your computer to see them. And so I blow it up and I'm like, oh my God, there's like an old farmer wearing a straw hat and he's got a goatee going on and there's a goat. Oh, there's looks like a horse in the background. And this isn't just patterning. You can see these. They're the best way I can describe them is they're almost like somebody hand drew them, like they're almost like
So,
caricatures or illustrations of people. And it's how we look in spirit, I guess. So I started then as I'm looking at photos, I would not just look for the orbs, the obvious ones. I started blowing up photos and checking all around a person's aura from one side over to their other side. And I found I was picking up groupings of spirits, especially by the temple areas. And I tend to pick up a lot of children and dogs. They sort of hang out around the top of your head. And we also get things called what I call resting faces, where it's almost like just a face, and it'll be resting on maybe this part of your head up around here. And they just sort of seem like they're sleeping, but it's like it's a mask. And I liken that to images I've seen of past lives, our past lives. So when I get those with a person, they might have one or two or three or four, depending on how many past lives they've had. This, I know this sounds freaky, but it's amazing. And so I've discovered I can photograph anybody, and 100% of the time I will find spirit around them now. And I call us the human antenna. And I also learned doing these photographs at events. So I might take photographs of 50 people, and it takes me about 20 minutes to look through their photos afterwards. And everybody has them around them. And some people that are interested in their genealogy, when I point out and I crop, this guy wearing a goatee and he's got a little tie and a white shirt on and a black hat or something, these people can recognize them as family they know. It's like it's great great grandpa. So for some people, they know who it is the minute they get their photos. Other people, it'll be, maybe past lives or other spirits that they don't recognize. But it's also cool. You get animals around people, so people will recognize a loved dog they used to have, or if they grew up on a farm, they're going to get some farm animals around them. So I also discovered doing this. Not only do I get spirits and images in basically in your etheric energy that goes around you. It's just like a white band of energy. Um, that if you're at a location that's haunted or has familiar spirits that are at that location, they will show up, and you can only tell those. And I only fell into this because when I'm taking many, many participants, I would get repeat spirits showing up. And that told me they were spirits that were haunting the building. So what I've done now is I call this the human antenna. So now when I go to a haunt location, I'll set up my black curtain on a door frame or something in the haunted castle, and I'll have my participants stand against it and I'll photograph them. And I know I'm going to get spirits around them. Some will be spirits that are known to them, but I'm hoping to get, when I go to Scotland in particular, in Stirling Castle, maybe I'm going to get Mary Queen of Scots show up, or, Bonnie Prince Charlie. Be great to get something of Robert the Bruce when I'm there at his monuments. I don't know,
I mean,
but
are these images like clear as day? Because a lot of people will say pareidolia, and
oh
what you
yeah,
described as
well,
faces and
pareidolia,
dogs and all that.
and I have to keep that in mind everything I look at, because that's what the materialists are going to say. They're going to say, oh, it's just pareidolia, and that's their one word answer to everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I have to be aware. I'm not fooling myself when I see these things, and they're hard to see, but you have to really blow them up, and they're there. And it's the more you do, you become skilled at it. It's almost it's an area of paranormal research. Orbs alone, they should be a field unto themselves. And now the spirits that show up around our energy, it's a fascinating area of research. And you know, somebody may not be able to see them. I don't know what one person's eyesight is compared to another.
Mhm.
But I figure if I can see it with my glasses on, anybody should be able to see it. And yeah, I'm not just picking out weird things. No. And like I have a case in point. Maybe we can share the photo later. I don't know. But when you're out in nature, for example, I love taking photography anyways. I've picked up just as flukes nature spirits that are bigger and larger than life, and their faces that are just in the trees. They resonate with nature around us. I've gotten two good ones, two really good ones that you can clearly see. And um, I think they're so clear anybody can see them, but I could picture one person saying, "Oh, I don't see anything." Like there's always going to be somebody
Yeah,
that's
you're
not
always
going to
gonna
be
have it.
able to see it.
No,
So
I mean,
anyway, so I'm coming to Scotland with my human antenna, my black curtain, and I'm going to be throwing it up at Stirling Castle. I'm going to be sticking it up over doorways, and I'll be doing my own type of spirit photography, and I'll be photographing other things. I'll be looking for apparitions too.
yeah.
But I'm going to definitely be working the human antenna while I'm there. It's
I
magic.
mean,
It really is. It's paranormal magic.
it'd be interesting to see what you catch when you do come back.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could show the world one photo from your collection, what's your like favorite? Have you got a favorite that you've caught over the
Um,
years?
yeah, aside from that spirit in the barn, um, there's one I have that I use. I use it in a lot of marketing because it's a black and white, it's ooky spooky. And in it, like I broke into an abandoned facility. It was a prison. And, me and every 15-year-old kid in the neighborhood had been in there. It wasn't like I kicked in a door or anything. We just make our way in there. And so I've explored this facility. And on one night I was there, I could hear like a woman in a sing-song voice, like she was doing laundry or chores. And I was kind of expecting to bump into her in a spectral way. And
Yeah,
so I'm taking pictures, and I didn't feel like I encountered her that night. And as I'm leaving the back of the grounds, making my way to get to my car, as I came out, I realized there was another white car parked at a back gate, and there were two uniformed people. And I thought, well, I don't want to draw any attention to myself. That's it for the night. So I'm going across an open courtyard with my cameras, and then a voice says to me, "Take a picture." I heard it clear as day. I can't say if I heard it with my hearing or if it's one of those voices you hear from within. So I just took my camera, I held it out, and I took a picture. And I could see what I photographed when I took the photograph at the time. And I thought, wow, something's right here. So I made my way to a coffee shop, and in the middle of the night, I'm just checking my photos. I'm like, my God, I got something. And at first, you can see what looks like shoulders and a neck. And then it almost looks like it narrows out. And I thought, well, maybe I got a photograph of that woman. It looks like her head of hair. And it took me a couple of months of staring at this photo, trying to make sense of it. And all of a sudden, I could recognize it for what it was. When I'm out investigating, I wear my black equipment vest because I can carry all my cameras and EVP equipment,
yeah.
tripod in my back, and I always have a camera ready right at my breast pocket. But my shoulder straps have this way of separating on my shoulders. And in the photograph, in the white etheric energy that I thought was a spirit, I recognized they were my shoulders, and those were my camera straps in the photograph. So, and then I realized it was my etheric body being pulled away from me, and it would have been my neck being going forwards, extenuating forwards. And then I recognized it wasn't a woman's hair. There were two shadow beings in profile. They resemble Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter. It's like sort of like those white
Excuse me.
serpentine faces, whatever you want to call them. And they were having a taste test. They were pulling my etheric body away from me, and they were having a little taste test. And then as they were processing my information, I could see, I can recognize it clearly. It's my face below them as I was passing through them, like you would go through a conveyor belt, maybe. And I kind of wonder to this day if that instruction I had to take a picture was some internal alarm system that broke the connection. So as I take the picture, I think I severed the connection with them because they were trying to attach themselves to me, and I don't think I've had anything attached to me. So it's a really cool picture, and I can maybe share it with you if you'd like.
Yeah, if you can share it with us, and what I'll do after this comes out, I'll share it on the Facebook page so people can check that out.
Sounds good.
But I mean, the last thing I really wanted to kind of close on is after 40 years and thousands of investigations, countless photographs, and writing a book on the subject itself, what's the single most important thing you've learned about the paranormal and like you'd wish everyone else would really understand?
Well, that's a
If you had
good
to pinpoint
question,
it.
and I've given that some thought, you know. Something I like to share with people is an understanding that ties into my experiences is um, we come into this world and we're here to learn. And, you know, the best way I can describe what we're here to learn is those patterns that repeat themselves in your life that you wonder, it might be something like you fail at a relationship. And so then you go on to the next relationship and it's the same pattern that comes in. It's like maybe, you know, you attract that same person into your life, or it could be at your place of business where you work. It's the same, it's the same thing that usually comes down to people skills. It's always
Yeah,
some sort of social interaction. And those uncomfortable patterns that you sometimes just say, I'm done with it, I'm walking away from, you're not meant to walk away from them. Face them head on, face your fears maybe, and meet them head on. Because if you, those, that negative pattern that you don't feel or you want to deal with right now, okay, it's kind of like class is going to begin maybe a year down the road, and you're going to have to address those same things again. So those are the patterns that you've chosen to come into this world to take on and to learn from. So all I can suggest to people is if life gets uncomfortable, that's what it's all about. You're supposed to take on those challenges and try not to hold on to try not to have attachments to things. You don't have to be aloof, but say, for example, enjoy a cup of coffee, but don't make it, you know, that you're going to be a ghost coming back to get a cup of coffee or whatever. You don't want to have attachments. And I've learned that from the Buddhists. You know, they spend their whole lives preparing for the next life, you know, for death. And and the other thing is prepare for your own end of life, whether it's you know, preparing for your own care at end of life, making sure you have your affairs in order. Don't wait till the last doctor's notice saying, "Oh, you've only got 2 weeks to live." Try to be prepared. Try to make it. It's your life, and you know there were celebrations when you came into the world, and people acknowledge your life. Treat yourself with some respect on the way out. You know, plan your plan your passing, and even if you can be there for loved ones that are perhaps leaving this realm, be there for them, help them with their end of life care, help them with their passing, make them feel comfortable, don't let them have any stresses if you can. Be there for them. So be there for other people, and hopefully you have other people in your life that are going to be there for you, and um, try to give your end of life a little bit of thought, you know. And I'm speaking of that as I'm approaching the latter half of my life now, and I've helped other people pass over, and I've seen the shadows moving around underneath you know, the crack in the floor. You want to be there, even if it's as a guardian, just to, you know, an honor guard for those that you're leaving behind, I guess,
yeah.
or they're leaving you behind in some cases. I don't know. That's my two
I
cents
think
worth
that's a
for you.
very good answer. I think that's food for thought to definitely think about for a lot of people. Well, no, thank you for jumping on today. I know it's really early for you over where you are.
Okay,
Um, I mean,
sun's coming up.
it was going to be 5 a.m., wasn't it for you? But we did push it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
there
I'll be okay.
anything you want to push out, Cameron, or say or anything before you go? Before we wrap
Well,
up?
just don't be afraid of the paranormal. It's something. It's another area of study in the world, and I really hope that living my life, that's all I'm trying to do is show people how easy it is to collect evidence, how easy it is to better understand these things. And they're really not out to harm you. Um, just understand them. Understand what the message is and what the purpose is. And sometimes you have to ask those tough questions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, definitely. Well, again, thank you. Anyone that wants to check out your book, it's available on Amazon, Ghost Revelations. And you've got a website,
Yeah,
haven't you, as
buy
well?
10 copies. Every person buys 10 copies. That would be ideal. No,
No, but hey, they may well do. You got a website as well, haven't you, that they can buy the book from as well?
well, I don't really sell much on it, but it's there for people. I still do all my research, no charge. But my website is cameronbag.com. Maybe there's some answers there for you. You can contact me if you like. I help people diagnose their hauntings even over the phone now. And if distance and time permits, I still totter out to those hauntings with my cameras. So
No, brilliant. And when this does come out, if you can just drop that link in the comments on YouTube as well, just so people
yes,
can click on whenever they need to. But I appreciate you coming on there and enjoy your time in Scotland.
thanks, Buck.
Thank you again. We'll catch you soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Take care.